How's it going, y'all? Today's video, we're talking about revenue share within Real Broker, aka Reve Share. When I first joined Real Broker, I found it all slightly confusing. It didn't totally add up, and I kind of thought like, well, I'll just see. And now I've learned a lot about it. I've experienced it personally. It's sick. It's one of the cooler aspects of Real Broker, so let's dive in. How's it going, friends? My name is Lynch, and I run multiple real estate teams around the country. And if you feel like maybe you're the most ambitious person in the room, whether you're just considering a career in real estate, maybe you just passed your test, or you're brand new, already kind of starting to get in the mix of things, or even more established and feeling a little bit stuck, this channel is for you. So thanks for being here, and I really hope that you find this helpful. I've explained these concepts to multiple people, mostly because I have teams. I haven't explained them directly to those folks. And as I grow my team, I realize I should probably have some of these ideas just solidified in a video so I can just point people to a video. So I'm making these videos that are about Real Broker largely for people who want to join my team, but I guess if it helps a stranger on the internet, that's cool as well. So if you're a stranger on the internet, what's up? Hope this is helpful. If you're joining my team or considering it, also what's up? I hope this is helpful. So we're talking about Reve Share, and some of y'all might be thinking like, what exactly is Reve Share? I don't want to speak for Real Broker on any of this stuff. This is all from my perspective and kind of how I see it. And maybe some of it is filtered down through things that I've heard them talk about, heard leadership within Real Broker talk about, and basically my interpretation of those ideas, and more specifically, like how they apply to me and hopefully would apply to you. Quite simply, Real Broker offers its agents something that it calls revenue share, specifically a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1% revenue share model, where when you attract an agent who then joins Real Broker, whether you know them or not, doesn't really matter as long as they put you as their sponsor, basically the person who influenced their decision to go to Real Broker the most, then that is considered that you attracted the agent to Real Broker. And if that agent caps and they're just the one person right below you, then you get $4,000 from the cap that they've paid in. Again, more on this later. That's a very, very basic concept. You attract an agent, they produce for Real Broker. As they produce, they pay a split up to a certain cap. Again, we'll talk about this in a second. And of that split that they pay to Real Broker, you get a percentage of that as basically revenue share, and really just a totally different revenue stream from your normal sales business. I think Real Broker sees revenue share as an alternative marketing strategy. And honestly, I think it's pretty genius. They don't spend money on billboards and TV ads and Facebook ads and YouTube ads. Real has structured their company in a way that the agents who are already within Real are incentivized to attract more agents to Real. And I've dug into it a decent amount. And what I think is interesting is for pretty much every dollar that Real makes only from agents producing, by the way, more on that maybe too later, for every dollar that the company makes specifically after splits, about 50% of that goes to revenue share. So 50% of Real Broker's income, revenue, is then sort of sectioned off and put directly into marketing. A few things that I personally really enjoy about Real Broker and things that maybe led me to join Real Broker is, number one, there is no recruitment allowed. That's like a 4-letter word within Real Broker, and I actually really appreciate that. I hate to be sold to. I hate to be recruited or tried to be recruited to things that I'm not interested in. I find it so annoying. So knowing that that's something that Real Broker is adamantly against recruitment, fine by me, big fan. And let me be clear, this is not recruitment. This is not an attempt to recruit you to Real Broker at all. Again, this is for agents who want to join my team. If it helps other people, cool. Another thing I really enjoy, Real Broker is a production-based business model. Agents who are on Real Broker who don't make any money don't make Real Broker any money. There are no monthly fees at all. So once you're on Real Broker, if you're just sitting there not producing, you don't make them any money. And so they want agents who are actually producing, who are actually helping people buy and sell real estate. And then sort of final thing that I really enjoy about Real as it pertains to the Reve Share specifically is that all of the communications that I see coming from leadership within the brokerage, they're pretty much always talking about legacy, and specifically the ability to earn income from sales and from, again, helping people with real estate, buying and selling real estate, but then also sort of building this other long tail legacy income. And they recently announced something called the Real Retirement Plan. I think that's what it's called. That is super cool, and that got me much more interested in the revenue share aspect of Real. And just, I thought, oh, they nailed it. They solved a problem, or they really conquered like a dilemma that I think a lot of people would have. So the retirement plan, more on that later toward the end of this video probably. And then on the same note of legacy, one thing that I think is very cool is this revenue share is willable. So if something were to happen to the agent within Real who has revenue share income, they can will that to their heirs, whoever that may be, and their heirs can receive that income in perpetuity. But okay, that was a little bit of like an overview. So I want to dive into specifically like the nitty gritty of revenue share. And before we get there, first we have to understand splits. I'll do a much more in-depth video on this, but very simply, the Real splits are 85-15, so 85% of the commission goes to the agent, 15% of the commission goes to Real Broker, and then into marketing. And you only pay the 15% to Real Broker until you reach what is called a cap, and the cap at Real Broker is $12,000. So how many transactions it takes you to get to $12,000 will vary dramatically. I think if you had a $5 million transaction, that depending on the commission, at a 3% commission, then you probably cap after one transaction, but not that many people are doing $5 million transactions. So if you have a $400,000 transaction, I think you would cap in the 7th transaction. But just know that that cap for an individual agent is $12,000. I'm also a team leader, and my cap is also $12,000. But for an individual agent, it's $12,000. And so all of this revenue share benefits, or whatever you want to call it, income, all of that is taken from the $12,000 cap that a capping agent pays in. It's nothing more than that. It's nothing aside from that cap. I think a lot of people think like, oh man, they're just gonna nickel and dime you. It's, you know, $12,000 for the brokerage, and then there's all this revenue share stuff. That's not the case. It's $12,000 in the cap, and then from that $12,000 cap goes the revenue share. And now that we understand splits, I think it's important to understand tiers. Tiers is a very crucial part to the revenue share process. And as we get into the tiers, know that there's 5 tiers, and I'm spelling tiers T-I-E-R, by the way. And you'll find that tier 1, which is the folks directly under you, right? The people who you attract directly to Real Broker. And these can be agents on your team. These can be agents anywhere in the world, at least that has Real Broker, anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, Canada, whatever. But it's basically anybody for whom you are the primary sponsor. That is your tier 1. And again, your tier 1 is very important to everything else, because you have to have reach milestones in your tier 1 to unlock tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. The moment you've attracted a single agent to Real Broker, your tier 1 is unlocked, and that one agent will be the sole agent in your tier 1. But as you attract more and more people, your tier 1 grows, and as you hit those milestones, it unlocks tier 2 through 5. So first we'll talk about the milestones. Again, tier 1, you only need one agent to have tier 1 unlocked. Tier 2, and this just changed very recently, you only need to have 5 agents to unlock tier 2. It used to be 10. Within the last few months of when I'm making this video, they reduced it from 10 agents to 5 agents, which honestly is very cool, because now my tier 2 is open, because I literally only have agents who are directly on my team. To unlock tier 3, you need 15 agents in your tier 1, which is kind of a lofty goal. I think the reality is if you're crushing it as an agent and really focusing any amount of energy on sort of growing this, I think you will probably get to 15 agents in your tier 1 before any agent in your tier 2 attracts another agent. That clip can be pretty far away. I'm sure there are situations where that's not the case, but personally, kind of the way I'm pushing, I think that's the goal, is to grow my team, and my tier 1, that's the focus. And then anything else is gravy. But the gravy can get pretty cool. To unlock tier 4, you need 20 agents. To unlock tier 5, you need 25 agents. Again, all in your tier 1. I think the reality is that most agents are not going to pursue this, right? Which is both good and bad. As you attract more agents to your tier 1, probably there will be a little bit of a dilution of how many more agents are coming, slightly removed from you. But I think it only takes one agent in one of those tiers to crush for you to see like a real noticeable impact on your revenue share. I personally like the idea that 2 people away from me who probably don't know who I am at all, they may be noticing a bump. They might be like, whoa, who's doing a bunch of business, 2 away from me. And one thing I think is interesting is that it's entirely possible that your tier 3 dramatically outperforms your tier 2. It's also possible that your tier 5 outproduces tier 3, but tier 4 doesn't produce quite as well as tier 5, because it just depends on who those people are below you, how much are they crushing, is attracting agents, is the revenue share model something that they're focusing on or talented at or anything like that? Is that even on their radar? But I think all of that is important to understand. What do these tiers mean? Basically, you have to attract a certain amount of people, and then they have to attract people, etc., to then unlock those tiers and actually have any production within those tiers. So agents who are in your tier 1, if they cap, again, $12,000 cap, if they cap, you will receive $4,000 over the course of the year from them capping. If they cap in a month, $4,000 in a month. If they cap over the course of a year, $4,000 over the course of the year. And I'll explain how this breaks down in a per transaction basis, because that was something that I really had been stuck on. I was like, I don't understand. I would see revenue share coming in and I'd be like, that's cool. I just don't understand what the calculation is. So if a tier 1 agent caps $12,000, you get $4,000. If they or anybody in your tier 1 attracts somebody, that person is in your tier 2 as long as it's unlocked. And if your tier 2 agent caps, you get $3,200 from that cap. If you've unlocked your tier 3 and an agent has attracted an agent within tier 3, then from them you would get $2,400. And then tier 4, same thing. If you have an agent and it's unlocked and that agent caps in your tier 4, you would get $1,600 from them. Tier 5, same thing. They cap, you get $800 from them. And I imagine some of y'all, eyes glazed over fully. You're like, this is not of that much interest. I understand. And some of y'all are like, really? That's crazy. And the reality is, it is. It is crazy. There is a pretty wild opportunity in this sort of realm of real estate. I still think, I'll go on record, production in real estate and growing your real estate business is the thing to keep your eye on. The opportunity in real estate is unbelievable, and just in sales, in growing a team, in growing whatever kind of business you want, that opportunity is crazy. And regardless of how much business you've done, there is still meat on the bone to be had out there. Maybe you're at 100 transactions and you're like, I'm doing pretty good. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. I understand that. But in Minnesota, there's 60 to 80,000 transactions of real estate a year. So don't take your eye off the ball. If you can make this part of your business as a secondary part of your business, I think that's cool. But I think unless you're extremely passionate about teaching people and growing community, I think that you should focus on the most important thing in real estate, which is production of real estate. And like I said earlier, it's not just only if they cap do you get some revenue share. It's any transaction they do, you get revenue share of that transaction, and that maximum amount is basically whatever that tier is at the point that they cap. So for the sake of this example, I'm going to take a $400,000 transaction. I'm also going to give you like the basic calculation after I run through this, but we're going to use a $400,000 transaction for the example. And I'm also going to use a 3% commission to make the math as easy as possible. So for a $400,000 transaction with a 3% commission, that gross commission is going to be $12,000. Of that $12,000 for an agent who hasn't capped, you're going to pay in 15% of that to the brokerage. 15% of $12,000 is $1,800. And so the $1,800 is the split that goes to the brokerage. Now keep in mind, again, only that $1,800 is where any of this money comes from. The rest of that fundamentally is the agent. And if you were doing $400,000 transactions every time, it would take you about 7 transactions to cap, which also means the revenue share maxes, which is $4,000 for the tier 1, that is also going to cap at the same exact time, or basically, yeah, within the same transaction as the actual agent would cap. So it doesn't matter what transaction this is, just this agent hasn't capped yet. So we're saying $400,000 transaction, $12,000 commission. Of that commission, 15% goes to Real Broker. That's $1,800. And now if that agent is in your tier 1, you would get $600 of that $1,800, which by the way is 5% of the total gross commission. So remember earlier I said it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1% revenue share. The easier way to have calculated that would have been if this agent is in your tier 1, you get 5% of their gross commission, again, until they cap. So if the gross commission is $12,000, 5% of that is $600. So we can take that same 5, now 4%, if they're in your tier 2, 4% of $12,000 is $480. 3% is $360, 2%, $240, 1%, $120. And interestingly, if you add up 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, you get 15, which is exactly the amount that Real is collecting from this agent in their cap. So let's say this agent doesn't cap. Let's say they only do 5 transactions like this and they're in your tier 1. The one thing that I like that I wasn't sure about is they don't have to cap for you to get the revenue share. Again, you get 5% of the total gross commission of your tier 1 agents up to when they cap. So if they only do 5 transactions at $400,000 a piece, then from that agent you would get $3,000 annually. And now if this agent was on your tier 3 and did the same exact volume, you'd get $1,800 from them annually as well. One pretty cool bit of math, or maths as the English say, is that if you attract 3 agents to Real Broker and they are in your tier 1 and they cap, and you're the only sponsor too, by the way, more on that in a second. If you 3 agents in your tier 1 cap, that is $12,000 in revenue share to you, which is your cap as an individual agent. So I would recommend that you run that calculation if you're thinking about joining a 100% brokerage or anything like that, a really, really low split brokerage, if it's a ad infinitum. The reality is that I've paid in a good amount of money to Real Broker. Honestly, not that much, way less than my last brokerage, 100% brokerage. But even with what I've paid in, revenue share alone has repaid my cap. And I don't have that many agents that I've attracted. And the agents that I've attracted have attracted no people. I literally only have tier 1, even though my tier 2 is technically open. At my old brokerage, if you attracted somebody to the brokerage, one time you would get your rent for free. And it was like $150 a month. One $150 month for free for attracting an agent. Real Broker is crazy. Also, if that person attracted somebody to that brokerage, I would see literally no benefit at all from it. So what I think is really cool is that I'm incentivized to build a community that is under the umbrella of Real Broker. And if you watch the rest of this channel, I think you'll see that my business is very different. I want to be different at every turn, and Real Broker allows that. Real Broker is just a good platform to build a very unique business on. A couple final and very cool thoughts. Don't click away. These are very, very cool thoughts on the revenue share model, in my opinion. Number 1, I mentioned it earlier. It's willable. You can select an heir to receive, that feels very fancy by the way, you can select an heir to receive your revenue share. And if you pass away, regardless of when it is, for how long you've been there, if you have revenue share income coming in, that heir will receive that revenue share income. Talking about death, kind of scary, but let's talk about the retirement plan, which, actually one second. This is pretty blurry, but it says, never retire. It's words I live by, but I don't mean don't have a cool retirement plan financially. I mean, keep getting after it forever. And Real's retirement plan is something that truly made my ears perk up like crazy as it pertains to revenue share. Like I said earlier, Real Broker is really focused on producing agents. They don't want agents who don't produce anything at all and basically are only trying to recruit agents. Again, recruitment, super against the ethos of Real Broker. Producing agents, very much part of the ethos of Real. But I think they saw a flaw in the system a little bit and they solved that problem, which I think is very cool. It's basically using the retirement plan. Originally, you could only receive revenue share at Real Broker if you were a producing agent, which is basically like 2 transactions a year. Now that's still true for the first 3 years, but after you've been with Real for 3 years, if you don't produce anything, you can get a portion of your revenue share. If after 4 years, it's a slightly bigger portion, and after 5 years of being a producing agent consecutively at Real, you can get revenue share indefinitely. So it went from being like, you get cool bonuses for being a producing agent at Real Broker, to you can build like legacy. You can move on from real estate and you don't have to be a producing agent, but you can still see the benefit from that. Maybe a really cool opportunity will come up for you in your life 10 years from now because you're crushing it. But you know that I have this revenue share. I can't take that opportunity. But now, if you've done it for 5 years consecutively, been a producing agent, and you have this revenue share coming in, you can. You can take 2 years off and come back and you keep getting that revenue share. Again, that's very, very cool to me. And the final little piece that I think helps pull up the culture a bit is something that's called co-sponsored revenue share, which means you can share a sponsor with 2 different people who are already at Real. Or if you're already at Real and you and a friend or you and an agent on your team both are tight with somebody who joins Real, you can sponsor them together. There doesn't have to be the dilemma of, oh, I have an agent on my team. We both are friends with Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo wants to be an agent, but he doesn't know who he should put as his sponsor. Well, now he can put both. There's probably a whole other video on that because it's now it's not 100% of the revenue share. It's actually not even 50%. I think it's 45 and 45. But again, that's a different video. But co-sponsored revenue share I think is super cool. And as always, I would love to be able to work with you or at least chat with you about potential opportunities that we have. Regardless of where you live, I'm trying to expand my teams nationally, internationally, and really trying to do something cool here. And so if you're interested in joining or starting sort of a satellite team with me, I would love to chat. If you just want to join Real, I'd love to chat as well. And I have a link in the description if you want to join Real. Feel free to put me as a sponsor. I'd be thrilled for that as well. I just explained the obvious reasons why it would be cool for you to join Real with me as a sponsor. But more than anything, if this has been helpful, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel, click the bell to get notified, and leave anything at all. You can literally mash the keyboard in the comments, maybe put a couple exclamation points at the end. And yeah, I would appreciate that very much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.